Hello and welcome to this second colour correction tutorial for Premiere Pro, where we're going to be looking at this clip here with a couple getting closer and closer and feeling rather shy. Now this clip has got three major problems with it. Firstly, there is a colour cast, and there's sort of been a hue shift, and you can see that these aren't skin tones. They've sort of got a yellowy orangey sort of hue shift to them, a colour cast, which we need to get rid of. Secondly, the back is very well lit. Now this is good for bringing separation between the actors and the background, but the problem is the background is so well lit people might be tempted to not look at the actors but to see what's going on in the background. I mean, after all, you have got this marvellous teapot collection up here on the shelf. So we need to do something to get rid of or to hide the background and keep people's eyes on the actors and on the action. And the last problem we have, which we'll be dealing with in the next tutorial, is this red bucket. It's massively oversaturated. It's beyond legal limits in actual fact, and we need to desaturate just the bucket. We don't want to desaturate anything else, but we do need to desaturate this bucket so that it doesn't draw people's attention away from the action and it's within broadcast safe limits. So three problems, and we're going to use the same tool that we used in the last tutorial to start to deal with these issues, and that's called the fast color corrector. And if you remember last time, if we click in here, down here in our effects tab, and start typing fast, got a few presets at the top, and we scroll down to video effects, color correction, and there we go, we have the fast color corrector, and we grab it, click and hold, pull it across and drop it on the clip. And then up here in our effects control tab, which is ganged with the source monitor and the audio mixer, and the effects control, we have the fast color corrector applied. And if I click to open that, we can see the full effect. Now if you don't see it all, you've probably got this button up here checked. If you click that, you're probably looking like this, but if you want to fill the whole panel up, you just click the expand button, the show hide button as it's called, and then you can see the whole thing, and we can pull down and have a look at all that's involved. Now in the previous tutorial we had a look down here at the levels, and we're going to have a little bit more of a look at the levels as we go through this one as well. But mainly we're going to be looking at the top half of this one with this great big colour wheel, which I completely ignored in the last tutorial. Now the first problem we need to deal with is this colour cast, this sort of yellowy look that there is to their skin. There's a couple of ways that we can adjust this with the fast colour corrector. Now for a colour hue or a colour cast that affects the whole clip, the fast colour corrector is absolutely your tool. There is a more powerful colour corrector which we'll be looking at later on, but for this sort of problem where you need to change the colour of a whole clip, this is the ideal tool. Now the first thing we need to do is to make sure we can see our colour wheel in all its glory. We need to look and see where is this colour. Now it's sort of an orangey yellow, and I think it's pretty much in this sort of area of colour. Now the way that colour theory works, or colour wheels work, if you've got a problem with this colour, you have to go 180 degrees in the opposite direction to get rid of that colour. So if I've got a problem here, I need to start pulling out the controls in this direction. So we think it's going to be sort of about perhaps here. So I can grab hold of this little control handle in the middle and start to pull it in the opposite direction. And if I pull it all the way, I'm just going to add a big blue colour cast to the whole thing. But if I pull it back a bit, you can see that I have started to neutralise that colour cast. So I'll put it to about there. Now if I just scroll up and turn the effect on and off, you can see the before and after. Before, after. Before, after. And in fact, one of the wonderful options you have here with the fast color corrector, where it's got this output, is you can show split view. And if I click show split view, you can see the bottom of the screen is the original, top of the screen is corrected. Or alternatively, you can change it from horizontal to vertical if that works for you. You can see this is the uncorrected side and this is the corrected side. And we can play around with it and move it. Now, before we go much further, there are two golden rules that you need to apply when doing colour correction. The first golden rule is this: keep looking away from your screen to other items in your room while you're doing colour correction, because your eyes lie. If you keep looking at the thing you're trying to colour correct all the time, your eyes will get used to that colour. And as you start to remove it or add more in it, your eyes won't see what's really happening. And so you'll either overdo it or you'll underdo it, and it won't look right. So keep looking away, let your eyes refresh if you like, as they look at different coloured items inside your room. Don't keep looking at the screen, look regularly away because your eyes lie. And the second golden rule is this: while you're colour correcting, become a mushroom. And what I mean by that is no lights, no sunlight certainly. Because if you start colour correcting in a bright sunlit room in the morning, you go away and you have your lunch and you come back and the sun has gone over the building and it's become a bit more dismal or gloomy, then you'll start to make completely different choices in the afternoon that you made in the morning. And the choices you made in the morning won't look right in the afternoon, and then the following morning when the sun's brightly shining again, the choices you've made in the afternoon previously will not look good in the morning. What you need to do is have a room, if at all possible, with no sunlight shining in and no changing light sources. So you need to have a single light in the middle of the room if you like, or one light source that's constantly there, and make sure if you can have no sunlight and that you can look at your screen so that the choices you make are constant. So the two rules: firstly, look away regularly while you're colour correcting because your eyes lie. Secondly, have a constant light source, make sure it's not changing and shifting. Become a mushroom, at least while you're colour correcting. When it's over, you can take the blinds off the window, whatever you want to do. But if at all possible, you want to make sure you have no varying light sources, because that will affect the choices you make. Right, well, we've started to make a change here, but do you know what? There's an automated tool that can make this a little bit easier for us. So I'm going to click this little button up here, which resets it for us. Click reset. So we're back to how we originally were. And as you see here, we have a little colour picker for the white balance. Now, the white balance on the camera was incorrectly set when this film was taken, so that what should have been white, namely his collar here, has got a slight colour cast to it. So we can tell Premiere Pro that actually this collar was supposed to be white and see what difference it makes. So it gives us the option by clicking this colour picker, click on the picker, go across to what should be white and click on it, and as you can see, it's immediately made a big difference. It's basically told us that actually the colour was 180 degrees here, so it was actually nearer yellow-green, but we couldn't tell, and it's compensated by moving it across. So if I actually just turn it on and off, we can see the difference. So turning it off, that's the original, and that's the change. The original, and that's the change. Now, don't rely on automated controls. You might think it's got it wrong. You might say, actually, you know what, that's the right direction, but it's a little bit too blue for my liking, and you might want to pull it in a bit. But before you do that, I want to show you some more controls which are to do with the levels controls that we did earlier, and these are automated controls. These automated controls are going to say, what is the white point? What should be pure white on the clip? It's going to adjust the white point into that part. What should be pure black on the clip? It's going to move that accordingly. And what should be grey on the clip? And we're going to play with these three in just a moment. But firstly, how do we know what's supposed to be white, black and grey? Well, let's go back up to the top and have a look at this drop down here that says output. And when you click down there, you have three options. Mask we will be looking at when we look at the three-way colour corrector to do secondary colour correction. But composite simply means the whole video as is. But luma means the luma ranges, white, grey and shadows. So let's click on that, and now we can clearly see that this is supposed to be white. We can clearly see that this here and this here are supposed to be black, so these really are shadows, and all the rest is pretty much grayscale. So this is going to be the mid-tones. But do notice I've got three coats here, three different colours, all in the mid-tones. So we're going to have to be very careful when we select the mid-tones to make sure that we get the right sort of grayscale, and we might need to make a few different attempts to see what end result we're going to get. Okay, so now we know what's white, what's shadow, what's black if you like, and what's grayscale, mid-tones. We can go back from luma to composite, so that's the video as originally was, and scroll down again to the levels area. And now we have these three ones. I'm not going to use these automatic controls here because I often find they don't really do a brilliant job. But do feel free to have a play around with them. What I'm going to do is, I know I've got three areas. So I've got a white here, I've got a black in here, and I've probably got a grey, say here, possibly this coat or whatever. But we'll try that in a minute. So let's start with the input level white. Click on the picker and go to what we know should be white and click on that. As you can see, it's pulled the input white down, saying, okay, I now know that everything whiter than this has got to be pure white. And obviously this wasn't pure white, so it's pulled it down and said, okay, that's pure white, Anything lighter than that pixel will be white. Okay, black. We know we've got black in here. So let's click on the black and go to where we know should be black and click. And that's brought the black in. Now the grey. Now there are lots to choose from, so we might need to take multiple samples to try, but let's try anyway. Let's click on grey and say, well, is that pure grey? Let's click in there and see what it looks like. Ooh, do you know what? That's gone a bit too dark for me. Don't like that one. Okay, well, let's try again. Click. Let's try in his hair. Now, do you know what? That's given me quite a good contrast result. Now, remember what I say, you don't have to stick with automatic controls. You can play around with the contrast by moving the gamma control yourself. So you can pull the gamma up and down to get the result that you feel looks right. Now, if we go back up to the top, we can firstly look at the split view. That's horizontal, so there's the original at the bottom and the change at the top. We can look at it vertical as well. So this side is original and this side is changed. I think the change is superb, looks much, much better. And we can actually turn the whole control on and off to see what the original is and what the change is. The original and change. And another way of looking at it, if you remember last time we had the reference monitor, we can go to Window, Reference Monitor, and we come up with, well, originally you should come up with the composite video like that, but I'm going to choose another scope. I'm going to click on this little output section here, click on that, and I'm going to go down to Vectorscope. And the Vectorscope is showing me the colour. Now I'm just going to expand this a bit. Okay, it's showing me the colour information inside this shot. So for instance, this bucket here is shown me by this big red swathe up here. And it's going well beyond broadcast limits. Here are my broadcast limits, sort of safe limits, maximum limits, safe limits, maximum limits. We're well over maximum. We're into unsafe broadcast levels here, so we're going to need to bring that down. And at the moment the shot has also taken the skin colours particularly into this area here. Now this line between your reds over here and your yellows over here is actually known as the skin tone line. And if you can make the skin tones of a shot align with this line here, then you are going to represent not the colour of the skin. It doesn't matter if it's pink skin, yellow skin, black skin. What you're representing is the blood that's pumping through the skin. So if you can make skin tones, regardless of what colour the skin is, to match with this line, then you've done a really good job. Now watch how this shifts when I turn off the fast colour corrector. You see it's moved a bit more towards the yellows, which is where it was originally. So we've kind of missed it. We've gone a little bit too far and we've ended up with this yellow hue. If we turn it back on, we can see that actually we've colour corrected it so that we've got the skin tones in pretty much the right place. And I think we've actually got a very good, well-balanced shot. Let's have a look at one other graph while we've got the chance. Let's go to our YC waveform, which is what we looked at last time. And we can see, actually, you know what? We've got a really well-lit shot here now. Our whites are white, our blacks are black. Yes, they've been pulled in a little bit by those automated controls that we chose, but not enough to ruin a shot or damage the shot in any way. In fact, we've enhanced the shot. We've told them what should be white, we've told them what should be black, and we've chosen a grayscale that's given us a really good contrast. So I think we've ended up colour correcting this shot beautifully. And we can see from this graphical information from the Vectorscope that we've got the skin tone in the right place, from the YC waveform that we've actually got the whole of the shot well and truly shown. You can see it's dark over here because we're looking at this very dark area here. So I'm pleased with that so far, so I can shut off my reference monitor. The next thing we need to do is we need to deal with this need to black out this area so that we can keep the viewer's attention focused on the action. Well, I'm Andrew Davis. I hope you found this useful. Thank you for watching.